Hello and welcome to our fourth softball meeting. Our presenters this week, first on Rule 3, are Bess and Gary Russell II, both from the Muskingum Valley Baseball Softball Association. Our second presentation will be from Brian Harrell of the Summit Umpires Association and Linda Papagna of the Trumbull County and Youngstown Metro Associations. Thanks to all of our presenters. In the coming weeks, we'll hear from these and more presenters from all around Ohio.
Greetings, everybody. This presentation will be on Rule 3, Substitution, Lineup Management, DP Flex, Illegal Substitutes, Coaching, Conferences, and Courtesy Runner. This is presented by myself, Bess, and Gary Russell of the Muskingum Valley Umpires Association in Zanesville. The lineup card. Once the team's lineup card has been presented to you, you want to make sure that the lineup card includes first, initial, and last name, jersey number, the position, batting order of each starting player, and shall include each eligible substitute. Lineups become official once they've been exchanged, verified, and then accepted by the plate umpire during the pregame conference. The penalty after the lineup card has been submitted to and verified by the umpire and a change is subsequently made to a player substitute name or number, or if a player substitute is added to the lineup card, the umpire shall issue a team warning to the head coach of the team involved, and any further changes made to a player substitute name or number results in the head coach being restricted to the dugout bench for the remainder of the game. This slide simply shows the fielder's positions and the number assigned to each. Rule 3.2.5 explains to us about the headwear, which can be caps, visors, headbands, ribbons, etc., then they may be mixed. If worn, they must be white, black, beige, or school colors. And the colors are not required to be the same for team members. The logo, any color. Flat items, no longer than 2 inches, used to control the hair, such as bobby pins, barrettes, and hair clips, are permitted. However, plastic visors, bandanas, and hair beads are prohibited. In Rule 3.2.7, we find that exposed undergarments, if worn, are considered part of the official uniform. And all exposed undergarments shall be a solid single color, and again, our normal colors, black, white, gray, or a school color. For individual players, exposed upper body undergarments do not have to be the same color as the exposed lower body undergarments. For all team members, exposed upper body undergarments shall be the same solid single color, and all exposed lower body garments shall be the same solid single color. Garments other than team uniforms, such as arm sleeves, leg sleeves, and tights, are permissible. Anything worn on the arm or leg is a sleeve, except a brace, and shall meet the color restrictions. There is an exception. Any wristband with a playbook, play card attached shall be considered equipment and is permitted as long as it is a single solid color and it is not optic yellow. It does not have to match the color of the upper garment. It shall only be worn on the non-pitching arm. In Rule 3.2.9, we see that a pitcher shall not wear any item on the pitching hand, wrist, arm, or thighs, which may, in the umpire's judgment, be distracting to the batter. Players in the game are prohibited from wearing jewelry, such as rings, watches, earrings, bracelets, necklace, including cloth or string types, or other hard cosmetic or decorative items. Religious and medical alert medals are not considered jewelry. A religious medal must be taped and worn under the uniform. A medical alert medal must be taped and may be visible. In Rule 331, we see that a player not listed as an eligible substitute on the lineup card shall not be prohibited from playing. The penalty for that, once the lineup card has been submitted, verified by the umpire, and a change is subsequently made to a player, substitute's name or number, or we add a player or substitute to the lineup card, the umpire shall issue a team warning to the head coach of the team involved. Any further changes made to a player, substitute's name or number results in the head coach being restricted to the dugout or bench area for the remainder of the game. Rule 332. A substitute may replace any player when the ball is dead or time has been called. The substitute or the coach shall report to the plate umpire at the time of the change by stating name and shirt number of the A, player entering the game for the first time, B, the player re-entering, C, the flex, who's batting for the DP, and D, the DP, who is playing defense for the flex, and then E, a player being replaced in the batting order and the position to be occupied in the field if the player is not a courtesy run. Please note, a pitcher may be removed as a pitcher, return as a pitcher only once per inning, provided the return does not violate either the substitution or our charged conference rule. Moving on to Rule 333, plate umpires shall record all substitutions on the lineup card and then announce immediately any change or changes to the opposing team's head coach. Projected substitutions are not permitted. If there is no announcement of a substitution, a substitute has entered the game when a runner has taken the place of a runner she has replaced, pitcher takes her place on the pitcher's plate, a fielder reaches the position usually occupied by the fielder she has replaced, a batter takes her place in the batter's box, and in each of the above situations, when the ball is declared live by the plate umpire. And in Rule 334 and 335, we see that a substitute or courtesy runner shall not enter the contest unreported. And if they do, a team warning would be issued to the coach of the team involved, and the next offender on that team shall be restricted to the dugout bench area for the remainder of the game. Also, the head coach would also be put into the dugout for the rest of the game as well. Any player, starter, or substitute may be withdrawn from the game and re-entered once, provided such player occupies the same batting position whenever in the lineup. A starter and any substitute for a starter may not be in the game at the same time. A violation results in illegal substitution. Now let's talk about how we record any changes to our lineup card. Although there are many ways to record changes in the lineup during a game, we're going to show you a few slides of the most popular way to record those changes. If an umpire would decide to use a different method, it's critical that they document all changes in a manner that allows them to know what changes were made to ensure a proper ruling if a question of a player legality is raised. So now let's record a sub. Baker, who is a sub, is going to bat for Abel, who is in the number 2 spot. Mark out Baker, since she is no longer an available substitute. Mark out Abel, since she has left the game. And write Baker's name and number in the correct position, the 2 spot. So what happens if that player re-enters? In this case, Abel is going to play defense for Baker. Mark out Baker since she's leaving the game. Circle Abel to show she has re-entered the game. So now let's see what we do when we remove a player for a second time. Once again, Baker is going to bat for Abel. So we diagonally mark out Abel to show that she has left the game a second time. So now she cannot re-enter again. Circle Baker to show she has re-entered the game. The DP flex. The DP and the flex split a single player's responsibilities. DP is an offensive specialist, and as long as the DP plays offense, bats and runs, she has not left the game. The flex is a defensive specialist, and as long as the flex plays defense, any position on the field, she has not left the game, and she must have a defensive position listed in the starting lineup. When we begin the game, a DP does not have to be used, but if used, it must be noted on the starting lineup, with the DP listed in one of the 9 batting positions, and the flex listed in the 10th spot on the lineup card, along with their defensive position. A team using the DP starts the game with 10, but could end with 9 or 10 players. Let's look at the lineup card. The DP is the offensive player and must remain in the same batting position. That's one of the top 9 spots for the entire game. The name of the player for whom the DP is batting, which is the flex, will be placed in the 10th position in the lineup. When we substitute with the DP flex, if replaced by a substitute, the DP position remains in the lineup. A starting DP may re-enter one time as long as the DP returns to the original position in the batting order. If we're going to substitute for the DP can be replaced by a pinch hitter, a pinch runner, or the flex. In all cases, the DP has left the game and is not playing offense anymore, with 1 re-entry permitted. Now let's see how the substituting for the DP would look on our lineup card. On our sample lineup card, Cooper in the 7th spot is our DP. And Baker, who is a substitute, is going to come in and pinch run for Cooper. Cooper has left the game and may re-enter once. Baker is now the DP. The flex may also play offense. So if the flex bats or runs for the DP has left the game. Again, on our sample lineup card, in the 7th spot is Cooper, our DP, and of course in the 10th spot is our flex, Brown. The flex, Brown, is now batting in the 7th position. The lineup is now down to 9 players. So if the DP were to re-enter, Cooper, the original DP, re-enters to bat or run. Then flex, Brown, now returns to the 10 position, again playing defense only. The flex has never left the game. The DP can play defense at any position. If the DP plays defense for a player other than the flex, that player still bats and has not left the game. Let's look at how we handle our lineup card when the DP comes in to play defense. We have Abel, who is our second baseman, is no longer going to play defense, but she's still going to bat in the second spot. So Cooper, our original DP, is going to play second base. However, she's still going to bat in the seventh spot. Abel has not left the game, and Cooper is still the DP. Okay, how about when the DP plays defense for the flex? Cooper, our DP in the seventh spot, is going to go in to pitch. Brown, who was pitching but was also the flex, has left the game. The lineup is now down to 9 players. Brown may re-enter once. Now let's look at a couple scenarios concerning the DP and the flex. At the plate conference, after the lineups are official, Coach A says, my DP is going to play defense for my flex. The next half inning, Coach A says, my flex is going to bat for my DP. Then the next half inning, Coach A says, my DP is going to play defense for my flex. So what's each player's status at this point? Well, let's look. In scenario 1, my DP is going to play defense for my flex. At this point, the flex has left the game. The DP status has not changed. When the coach says my flex is going to bat for my DP, the flex has used her 1 re-entry. DP has now left the game. My DP is going to play defense for my flex. DP has used their 1 re-entry. Flex has left the game for the second time. They are done for the game as a player, not the position. In the second scenario, at the plate conference, after the lineups are official, Coach A says, my flex is going to bat for my DP. After the flex gets on base, Coach A says, my DP is going to run for my flex. Then in the next inning, Coach A says, my flex is going to bat for my DP. So what's each player's status at this point? Well, let's look. When the coach says my flex is going to bat for my DP, at this point, DP has left the game. Flex's status has not changed. My DP is going to run for the flex. DP uses their 1 re-entry. Flex's status still has not changed. My flex is going to bat for my DP. Flex still hasn't changed their status. DP has left the game for the second time. They're done for the game. The player, not the position. Remember too, you cannot place the flex player into the first 9 positions somewhere other than the original DP's position. Here are some key points. The rule of the DP flex is never terminated. A team may go from 10 to 9, back to 10 players, any number of times during the game, as long as the substitution rules are followed. And the game may end with 10 or 9 players. Some easy reminders. The DP can never be on defense only, and the flex can never be on offense only. The DP and the flex can never be on offense at the same time, and the DP and the flex can play defense at the same time. Now let's look at Rule 338 and find out what we do if we have a team that has no available substitutes when a runner is advancing on an awarded base or after reaching base and they are unable to continue. In A, the previous batter not on base is allowed to replace that player as a temporary runner until she is put out, scores, or the half inning ends. Now when the player who could not continue is scheduled to bat, an out shall be called. And when the half inning ends and the team resumes the defensive position, once a team has gone shorthanded and another eligible player is available, that player may fill the empty space in the lineup. Remember Rule 339. Any player who exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors consistent with a concussion shall be immediately removed from the game and shall not return to play until cleared by an appropriate healthcare professional. And Rule 3310 states that a coach or athlete who is bleeding, has an open wound, has any amount of blood on the uniform, or has blood on his or her person, shall be directed to leave the game until the bleeding is stopped, the wound is covered, the uniform and or body is appropriately cleaned, and or the uniform is changed before returning to competition. If medical care or treatment can be administered in a reasonable amount of time, the individual does not have to leave the game. The length of time that is considered reasonable is umpire judgment. The re-entry rule would apply to players taken out of the game for this rule. We continue with Rule 341 concerning illegal offense and defensive players. These can be discovered by the umpire or either team any time after the ball becomes live and an illegal substitute has taken a position as A, a runner, she is replaced or as a batter in the batter's box, B, a pitcher on the pitcher's plate, or as a fielder reaching a position usually occupied by the fielder being replaced, or C, a courtesy runner if that player has violated the courtesy runner rule. The penalty for these is restriction to the dugout or bench area for the remainder of the game. And in 1A and C, she's also called out. Illegal offensive players may be discovered A, when in the batter's box, the ball is live, and or before the batter runner reaches first base, or is put out, and before a pitch is delivered to the next batter of either team. B, when the illegal batter runner or runner advances, scores, or causes a play to be made that allows another runner or runners to advance or score, and the infraction is detected before the next pitch by either team. C, when an illegal batter runner or runner advances, scores, or causes a play to be made that allow another runner or runners to advance or score, and the infraction is detected after the next pitch by either team. And D, in a game-ending play prior to all infielders and or umpires leaving the diamond. The penalty, the illegal substitute, is restricted to the bench dugout for the remainder of the game. In A and B, she is called out. C and D, if still on base, she is called out. Also in A, the proper batter is considered to have lost her turn at bat, and the next proper batter shall bat. And in B and D, that play is nullified, outs made on play stand, runners not put out return to base, or the base is occupied at the time of the pitch, and in C, the play stands. Also remember that the penalty for illegal substitution takes precedence over the batting out of order penalty. An illegal defensive player is discovered before the next pitch to either team when, in A, they're involved in a play with a batted ball. In B, a non-batted ball is handled or touched by an illegal substitute that leads to a runner being put out. And in C, a non-batted ball is handled or touched by an illegal substitute that alters the play, but no runner is put out. An example would be an overthrow on a stealing runner. The illegal substitute retrieves the ball and prevents runner from advancing farther. Let's look at the penalties for the illegal player or substitute. They're going to be restricted to the dugout and bench area for the remainder of the game. In A and B, the team on offense has the option of taking the play or accepting the penalty. Out is nullified, runners return to base, occupied at the time of the pitch. In C, the umpire may award bases based on his or her judgment and the circumstances concerning the play. In A, the batter is allowed to bat again with the same count. And in B and C, the pitch is canceled if it is a strike or stands if it is a ball. After another pitch, all play stands, but the illegal player substitute is still restricted to the dugout bench area for the remainder of the game. Anytime a non-batted ball is handled or touched by an illegal substitute and does not lead to a runner being put out or alter a play, the play stands and the illegal substitute is restricted to the dugout bench area. Now we're going to look at the difference between an unreported versus an illegal substitute. An unreported substitute, who is a substitute who has the legal right to participate in the game, but is not reported to the umpire prior to her participation. All substitutes must be reported to the umpire. Note, a courtesy runner is not a substitute, but still must be reported to the umpire. An illegal substitute is a player who enters or re-enters the game without eligibility to do so. Illegal re-entry. A player who re-enters the game in the wrong position in the batting order. The flex, who enters the game as a batter or runner in a different position in the batting order than the DP, or a player who violates the courtesy runner rule. Here are some examples of an unreported sub versus an illegal sub. Unreported substitute. Eligible sub, which we'll call S1, replaces the runner at first base, R1, without being reported. Eligible sub, S2, comes to bat in place of the batter in the third spot, or B3, without being reported. Eligible sub that was a courtesy runner for F1, or the pitcher, earlier in the game, replaces F1, the pitcher, on second base without being reported. All actions would be legal if they would have been reported. Illegal substitute, B3, the third batter, re-enters the game a second time to bat. The fourth batter, B4, re-enters the game a second time as the center fielder, or F8. Substitute 1 enters the game to bat for B3, the batter in the third spot. B3 then returns on defense. The next inning, substitute S1 courtesy runs for F2. Sub 1 courtesy runs for the pitcher in the first inning, then courtesy runs for the catcher in the second inning. The designated player, the DP, is batting fourth in the lineup. The flex enters on offense for the batter in the sixth spot, or B6. All of these actions are illegal, even if they are reported. Looking at Rule 353, remember that any time a coach is in live ball area to confer with players or an umpire, or to occupy a coach's box, the coach shall be attired in school uniform or jersey/coaching shirt with coaching shorts, slacks, or warm-up suits, including fleece warm-ups, in school colors or colors of khaki, black, white, or gray. Cutoffs or any type of jeans are prohibited. Jackets are not considered part of the coach's uniform. Penalty: a coach not dressed in an appropriate attire shall not be permitted in the field of play following the pregame conference for the duration of the game or until the situation has been remedied. In Rule 354, a coach shall not physically assist a runner during playing action. And in 355, offensive team personnel, other than the base coach, shall not be near a base to which a runner is advancing or returning, nor shall anyone fail to vacate an area, including a coach's box, needed by a fielder in an attempt to put out a batter or runner. And in 4, the runner is out and the ball is in play. And in Article 5, the ball is dead, the runner closest to home is out. All runners not out must return to the last base touched at the time of the interference. Looking at Rule 366, we see that only the batter, runner or runners, on deck batter, coaches in the coach's box, bat/ball shaggers, or one of the 9 players on defense are permitted to be outside the designated dugout/bench area or designated warm-up areas. As a note, bench personnel are permitted to engage in throwing and running activities during the 1 minute designated for the pitcher to throw her 5 warm-up pitches at the beginning of each half inning. 3.6.17, we're reminded that team personnel shall not intentionally remove any lines of the batter's box or on the field of play. That penalty is a strike called on the batter if a member of the offense intentionally removes the line, and a ball awarded to the batter if a member of the defense intentionally erases the line. A team warning will be issued, with the next offense resulting in a strike or ball, the offender and the head coach being restricted to the dugout. Now let's talk about defensive conferences. Each team is granted 3 charge conferences without penalty during a 7-inning game. This allows the coaches or reps to confer with the defensive player or players. And in an extra inning game, each team gets 1 charge conference without penalty each inning while on defense. And remember, the number of charge conferences permitted is not cumulative. A request for time for a conference can be made by a coach, a player, substitute, or bench personnel. And of course, time granted for an obviously incapacitated player shall not constitute a charge conference. And a conference is not charged when the pitcher is removed as pitcher. The defensive team charge conference rule coverage is effective when the ball first becomes live at the start of each half inning. As a note, if the incoming pitcher has already pitched in the game, she gets 5 warm-up pitches. When a pitcher is removed by rule and the incoming pitcher has not pitched in the game, the umpire is authorized to permit additional warm-up pitches. As a penalty, after 3 charge conferences in a 7-inning game, or for any charge conference in excess of 1 in each extra inning, the pitcher shall be removed as pitcher for the duration of the game. As far as offensive conferences, there's 1 charge conference per inning. This allows the coach or any of the team personnel to confer with base runners, the batter, the on-deck batter, or other offensive team personnel. The umpire shall deny any subsequent offensive team requests for charge conferences after the 1. This offensive team conference charge rule coverage is effective when the ball first becomes live at the start of each half inning. And of course, time granted for obviously incapacitated players shall not constitute a charge conference. And remember that when one team is a charge conference, the other team may also have a conference which is not charged, provided the non-charge conference concludes when the opposing team's charge conference concludes, thus not delaying the game. Okay, so we'll wrap up the presentation talking about courtesy runner. Team at bat may use a courtesy runner for the pitcher and or the catcher at any time. Neither the pitcher nor the catcher will be required to leave the game under such circumstances. The same courtesy runner may not run for both the pitcher and the catcher any time during the game. In the top of the first inning only, the pitcher and catcher are identified as those players listed on the lineup as the pitcher and catcher. Both must face at least the first batter on defense, 1 pitch. Thereafter, the pitcher and catcher are identified as the last players who physically played that position on defense. The pitcher or catcher must bat and reach base legally or earn their way on base in order to be eligible for a courtesy runner. There is an exception, of course, when an injury or disqualification occurs in the top of the first inning to the pitcher-catcher identified on the lineup card, and she is unable to face the first batter in the bottom of the first inning. The player who ran for her is retroactively her substitute, no longer a courtesy runner. All substitution rules apply, and the pitcher or the catcher has left the game. Players who are currently in the game or have participated in the game in any other playing capacity are ineligible to serve as courtesy runners. A player may not be a substitute for any player in the half inning that she ran as a courtesy runner. There is an exception when an injury or disqualification occurs and no substitutes are available. The courtesy runner must be used as a substitute and take the place of the injured player. Should the courtesy runner be on base and is entered as a substitute, the pitcher or catcher for whom the courtesy runner is running must run in her place. The courtesy runner is not permitted to run as a courtesy runner for the designated player, the DP, if the DP is only batting and not playing defense for the pitcher or the catcher. Once the courtesy runner is designated for that half inning, the pitcher or catcher for whom she is running may not return to run while that courtesy runner is on base. A courtesy runner shall not run for a courtesy runner. When a legal substitute replaces a courtesy runner, the player for whom she was running has left the game. The exceptions, should an injury or disqualification occur to any other offensive player and no substitutes are available, the courtesy runner must take the place of the player. In this case, the courtesy runner enters as a substitute, and the pitcher and catcher for whom the courtesy runner is running must run in her place. When the courtesy runner is injured or disqualified, the player for whom she is running, the pitcher or catcher, may return to run the base, or a legal substitute may be entered. The courtesy runner must be reported to the plate umpire. Remember, we could have either an illegal substitute or an unreported substitute in this situation. Let's look at a couple courtesy runner scenarios. In the top of the third inning, the batter in the 8th spot, the DP, singles to left field. Coach A asks for time and wants the flex, which is the pitcher, to run for the DP. Is this legal? Yes. The DP has left the game and has one re-entry. After 2 pitches to B9, or the 9th batter, Coach A asks for time and wants to enter number 12, an unused sub, as a courtesy runner for the pitcher. Is this legal? No. The pitcher must have earned her way on base to be eligible for a courtesy runner. The flex was substituted after the DP was on base, so they did not earn their way on base. That is the end of our presentation. I'd like to thank you, and have a great season, and stay safe.
Greetings. My name is Brian Harrell, and I'm with Linda Papagna again. Most of you got to experience a little bit last week, the last time, as we talked about Rule 8. Well, today we're going to go from the rule book onto the field and talk about umpiring, specifically being the base umpire. As we know that the base umpire is not in a vacuum. And so some of the ideas and concepts we will talk about. We'll discuss some of the plate umpire too. This is all 2-person mechanics. And as we go forward, we will tell a few stories and just have a little bit of fun over the next 30 minutes. Today, when we were asked to do this meeting, these were the ideas and concepts that Jerry asked us to talk about. And it's interesting because if somebody were to ask me, what are the most important parts of being a base umpire? Initial positions, movement, pivoting, understanding the inside-outside concept, and chasing the ball to the outfield are the ones that I would pick. In addition, I would add one thing, and that would be staying in shape, or at least staying in base umpire shape. I find it that being in the right position will help us make the call 75% of the time. The other 25% of the time is we have to be ready to make that call. Umpires miss calls for 2 reasons, at least in my thoughts. Number one is actually 3 reasons. Number one is not being in position to make the call. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. Number 2 is the umpire has never seen it before. And I think that happens to all of us at least once or twice a season, especially us veterans. I've been in softball for many years, for at least 20 plus years. And almost every game, I still have situations that I haven't necessarily seen before. But I'm ready to rule. And the third is it catches us by surprise. As a base umpire, the pre-pitch mechanics is so important. And we don't really talk about that much on this presentation as far as in the slides, but I really want to kind of mention this. Prior to the pitch, there is so much that we need to do while we're in these initial positions. I break it down into really three ideas. Number one is the pitcher. What do I need to know about the pitcher as a base umpire? Most of that is A, feet, and B, hands. The minute she gets on the pitcher's plate, we need to be ready to rule on pitches, specifically illegal pitches, whether it's legal or illegal. I want to encourage every base umpire this year, every single pitch on every single game that you are a part of. If there's 200 pitches per game and you work 20 games, that's 4,000 pitches or something like that. I'm not a mathematician. But all 4,000 pitches, you should be able to tell me, was that a legal pitch or an illegal pitch? Rule on every single pitch to the legality of the pitch. Whether we're talking feet, whether we're talking leap, crow hop, we're talking hands, some double touches, things like that. Be ready to rule on all 4,000 pitches that you see from the bases. And the other thing we need to be ready for is the batter. And so the batter, the swing, anything that we can help on as far as appeals go, we need to be ready to make those rulings. If everything that could possibly happen on every single pitch is part of my pre-game and pre-pitch routine, nothing's going to surprise me. All righty. Most of us, a lot of this is pretty basic information, but it's something that we need to talk about. So Linda, talk about the initial positions with no runners on.
All right, with no runners on, usually you are in the behind first base in the A position, and then you are roughly between 18 to 20 feet behind the base. With no runners on, you're usually walking the line. You need to make sure that you have, enough space so that you're not going to interfere with the play. With no runners on, you're walking, and when there is a hit ball, whether it be to the infield or the outfield, you have specific moves that you need to make. But while you're in the A position, you're also looking at the pitcher because you're looking for illegal pitches, hops, things that maybe her feet are not in contact with the pitching plate. So as a base umpire, those are some of the other things that you're responsible for taking care of.
Linda, why do we walk the line?
Well, pretty much don't know the true reason, but I walk the line so it keeps my head in the game, and so that when I take when on a ball that is hit, that my first step I'm taking left, right, left, and then my first motion is going to be into the infield so that I can get in the proper position to make into the right angle to make a good call. Sometimes people who stand and don't walk the line tend to kind of lose concentration, don't stay focused, so that you're kind of walking with the pitcher so that you're part of that play. That would be my guess, Brian.
No, and it's an educated guess, if you will, because it's right. We need to be moving. You know how, like Linda said, how hard it is to go from a stopped position to go somewhere. And so umpires who do not walk the line, which are none of us in Ohio, from first base.
True.
They're always a step behind. And so we as umpires take that left, right, left, and our weight's on our left, the ball is hit, and we immediately go somewhere. The key to base umpiring is to go somewhere and stop. Every call we are going to make is from a stopped position. And to get to our stop, we need to be able to go, and that's why we walk the line. Linda, do we walk the line when we're in any other positions than behind first base?
No, we do not walk the line when we're no other positions. If we're in the B or C position or the D, usually we're in a ready position. And the ready position is with our hands kind of that's just above our knees, slightly bent at the waist, keeping our eyes focused on our runner and on our pitchers, making sure that the pitchers still are not doing anything little, and our runners are not, taking any steps off the base prior to the pitch. So, when we're in the B, C, and D position, that we are in the ready position, not walking the line.
And the biggest reason there is when you're behind first base, there are no runners to worry about leaving early. And so when we're in behind shortstop, we're behind the second base person, we are in position to make a call, and that call would be leaving early. And so if our eyes are bouncing, our head's bouncing, we will not have as great of a look and be able to judge as clearly that leaving early foul. Initial position with a runner on first base is behind the second base person, always shading toward the lead runner. And since, that's when we're multiple runners on, but with a runner on first base, we are always on the left shoulder of the second base person, about 4 or 5 feet behind her, prepared to make a call on the leaving early, on any throws back to first base by the catcher. And as I had said earlier, we have to still be able to rule on illegal pitches. It's a lot harder from there, but it's still our job to know if the pitcher's feet are legal. Runner on second only. Linda, how do you handle when there's a runner on second only?
When I have a runner on second base, you are to the left shoulder of the shortstop, and I try to stay anywhere from 3 to 4 feet behind the shortstop to make sure I will not interfere with the shortstop attempting to make a play. Down in the ready position with the runner on second, you definitely want to watch the runner to make sure she's not taking off too soon. And just being in that ready position, avoiding the shortstop. That's, the biggest thing is just making sure those runners are not leaving early, and you're watching the pitchers to make sure that their feet are in contact with the ground and the pitching plate.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back just for a second, and I want to be very clear about this. And something that I learned actually fairly recently over the last 5 to 7 years from Jerry when talking about steals. The initial position of the base umpire, we know, is on the left side of the second base person, and being able to rule on leaving early. Well, we are also obviously in charge of ruling safer outs on slides. One of the things that I want to encourage all of us to think about is this leading edge right here of second base. This line here is where we're going to be able to rule the most effectively on girls as they slide into the base, whether they're safe or out. Are we going to be able to get to this position right here? No. This is the best position to see that right here. But we will take 4 or 5 steps, get ourselves set, and we are going to look right here at that leading edge. As she slides into there, make sure that you are not in a position where the second base person or the shortstop are in our way, but we want to look right here at this leading edge. This is where we're going to be able to be the best and most effective on the steals. In a perfect world, if you can get to right around here to make that call, man, you're looking right there at that leading edge. But often the second baseman is right around in here, and so that's a long way to go. All right, talk about runner on third then, Linda.
Okay, we have a runner on third. Now we have, I'm trying to get this slide in there. Okay, we have a runner on third, and you are the base umpire, and you are on the other side of the shortstop. So now you would be on the right shoulder of the shortstop, distance enough to make sure you don't interfere with the play. But again, you're looking there for the same thing, illegal pitches, and also for you want to make sure you're in a position with a pickoff play. A lot of catchers will throw down, especially maybe with a runner on first. Will attempting to go to second, will throw down to third base. So you want to be in a position where you would be able to get in a good line to rule safer out on a pickoff play. Again, you're in the ready position with your hands on your knees, slightly bent, and just focusing on the runner and the pitcher, and also helping the home plate umpire out as well.
Again, when we're talking about steals and we're talking about pickoffs, right here, the leading edge for a pickoff then is right here. And so as the base umpire, I'm not going this way on a pickoff. I'm going this way. And so if I can get right here and look through to that leading edge, I'll have the most, I'll have the best chance of getting that right. So thinking about leading edges. All right. A couple concepts with terminology. R1 is always the leading runner. So R1 is on second now. R2 would be the second runner on base, and R2 is on first. What do we know, Linda, when we have runners on first and second with less than 2 outs?
We have definitely what we call an infield fly rule.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the it's important to think about. All right, we've got infield fly possibility. There's less than 2 outs. Once we have 2 outs, we don't have that possibility. I, as the base umpire, will be on the left side of the shortstop, 4 or 5 feet behind her. I think this year, if every base umpire in the state of Ohio really thinks about where they are in relation to the shortstop or the second base person and how that is. Are we on the left side? Are we on the right side? Too often, umpires in different states, not our state of Ohio, don't think about their initial positions as per the shoulder of the fielder. So I really want to encourage all of us in the state of Ohio to really think about where I'm standing in relation to the shoulder. So we're going to be on the shoulder of the fielder's, the left shoulder if we have just a runner on second. We'll be on the right shoulder if we just have a runner on third. And we're responsible for the tag ups at first, runners touching first and second. The plate umpire on a fly ball to the outfield that nobody goes out on, nobody chases, then the plate umpire will have the tag up on second base of R1. What about first and third, Linda?
First and third. Well, in that situation, you as the base umpire definitely have a little bit more responsibility because now you have to be responsible for watching both runners. You will be on the right side of the shortstop. You'd be about 4 to 5 feet behind in the ready position, of course, with your hands on your knees, and you're watching the runners, both runners, to making sure they're not leaving early, and you're making sure that there's no illegal pitches. And in case of a steal, with the runner on, if you have to wait for the throw, and on the throw, then you would be responsible for the tag at at second base if they did throw down. So, when you have that situation, you have to be on your toes, always watching the ball, because you don't want to move anticipating. And then if you're anticipating the throws coming to second, well, then next thing you know, the throw's coming down to third and you're not in position to see, say for out. So you're always keeping your eye on the ball.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Linda, which of these two runners, R1 on third or R2 on first, is most likely to leave early?
In my opinion, it's going to be the girl on first base.
Yeah, she's the one that's wanting to get the advantage of the stolen base. I think R1 on third, she doesn't need to leave early, but that doesn't mean that she potentially couldn't, because they tend to, sometimes runners will forget where they're at. But most of the time, the times that they would go home would be on either a hit ball or a passed ball wild pitch. And there, you don't have to worry as much about the leaving early. So sometimes in two-person, we have to kind of sacrifice a few things. And one of those things potentially is looking specifically at R1 on third when they leave early, as opposed to R2 on first. And so I would suggest to everybody is to keep R1 on third in your peripheral, but really have a good look at the feet of the pitcher. And then immediately when you see that release, go to the runner. If she is 3 or 4 steps off of that base, chances are she left her.
Yeah.
Third and second are always, for me as a base umpire, when I'm there with the shortstop, this is an awesome time to realize that when I was first umpiring, I thought I was in the way over there. And then I realized if I'm 5 steps behind the shortstop, and on this situation, I would be on her right shoulder because the leading runner is on third. The lead runner is on third. I'm not in the way. And once that ball is hit, I can do all kinds of fun stuff like get the calls right. The other thing that happens over here a lot is once the ball is hit to, any of the infielders, but this call at first, this initial call at first is the base umpire. Linda, is this the hardest call that you have to make as a base umpire, that bang banger at first from the behind the shortstop?
It's a tough call. You got to hustle. One thing coaches are going to look to see if you're standing in your initial position, making that call from way back behind the shortstop. So when there is a throw to the first base, I'm trying to come into the infield, even though I'm avoiding any runners. I'm taking a few steps in the infield. I'm going to get set, and I'm going to make that call. Sometimes in that C position, it's difficult to see a pulled foot. And so that if you are not sure, or a coach does say, hey, she pulled her foot, you as the base umpire in that position, it will call out if she is out. And then you can surely go to your home plate umpire asking for assistance on a pulled foot, because a pulled foot in that position will probably, if it's going to occur anywhere, it'll probably occur in that situation because your first baseman's going to want to get off that base quick, trying to maybe make a throw home. So, as a base umpire, at times you may have to come home and ask for assistance and make a ruling, calling her out. So, and asking for some assistance on a pulled foot. So
that's a great point. And Jerry talks about this a lot, and we're going to talk about it here right now. Make a call. Do not go to your plate umpire first and say, what do you have? You say out, and then potentially, did she pull her foot? But mostly in those situations, you call her out, and then everybody yells and screams, and the coach asks you to talk to your plate umpire, which you will do.
Absolutely.
And you plate umpire and say, hey, did you see something that I didn't see? And they let you know, and then you can change the call or keep the call on that end of it. I think Linda and I are both, I know Linda and I are both in the same camp when it comes to, if a coach asks you to talk to your partner, talk to your partner. There might be a situation or two that you wouldn't. Perhaps, maybe your partner is completely out of position and won't help at all. But in these situations, when they're asking for a pull foot or a swipe tag, it's a lot easier to ask and come up with a ruling than it is to say no and deal with that.
I totally agree there, Brian.
So I didn't have a slide for bases loaded. This is bases loaded. Pretend like there is a player here. Everything is almost essentially the same for the initial position for sure. And you also obviously have less than 2 outs. You would have a infield fly situation and things like that. So let's talk about movements. Linda, when I say to you, can you explain to me the inside-outside mechanics? What does that mean?
Inside, outside. Well, Brian, it is basic. Pretty much that when the ball is in the infield, the base umpires will remain on the outside of the infield. So ground ball anywhere in the infield, you're breaking into the infield, but you're staying on the outside of the baseline. Now, when the ball then would travel to the outfield, you would come in, make your pivot or your button hook, find the ball and your runner, and proceed on. So when the ball is out, you're in. And when the ball is in, you're out.
Absolutely. And Linda mentioned the pivot or the button hook, depending on where you were in the generations to when you learned how to umpire the bases. Pick up the ball, glance as the runner. You keep all 4 elements in front of you. If you were paying attention to the second session of rules a few weeks ago, you know what those 4 elements are: offense, defense, ball, base. And so when you have all 4 of those elements in front of you and you're making these button hooks, you will have absolutely no problem catching. And here's what catching what you need to catch. The 2 things you are looking for most importantly during button hooks and during your pivots. Number 1 is obstruction. If obstruction occurs on the field by doing a pivot, you will know it happened. And number 2, touching of the bases. By doing a pivot, you will know if the base was touched. Obstruction, touching the bases.
Hey, Brian, may I share a little story with pivot?
Absolutely.
I was a very rookie umpire, and when I was breaking into the infield, I turned the wrong way and did not see the runner hit first base. And the coach saw it. And she come out and said, appeal. She missed first base. And of course, we got together and we talked about it. And the plate umpire asked my opinion. And I couldn't give it to him. And I'll tell you what, Brian, I never did it again. I always make sure when I turn in looking for that base. And after the game, the coach said something to me. And I said, Coach, you were right. I was wrong. And it'll never happen again.
Absolutely. That's a great story. A similar story happened to me on an obstruction once. And so I might be an outlier, but I call obstruction in varsity and JV softball games probably 4 or 5 obstructions a game. Now, it might just be the quality of teams, or it might be the fact that I'm really paying attention to it. Now, how many times of those 3 or 4 a game do I actually award bases? Very, very small, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. But when I have contact between a base runner and a fielder, that's obstruction, unless obviously the fielder has the ball. How many times, Linda, do you see that there's slight contact on a batter runner who touches first, kind of makes a little contact with the first base person, but never even has an intent to go to second?
You see that sometimes, Brian, but you have to look at the play and determine, did it impede her initial base path, and was she actually going, making an attempt to go to the next base? So,
Yeah.
And then when something like that occurs, I just kind of walk over to the first baseman and say, hey, again, preventive umpiring, you got to make sure you have to give her some room there when she's making that turn if there's not a play at your base. So
absolutely. Perfect. We talk a lot. The other thing that Jerry likes to mention, and I'll mention too, is on those pick off throws, the runners sliding back into the base being obstructed by the fielder, specifically first base or the second base person. That happens a lot. Girls are sliding back in. They make contact with a fielder prior to the fielder having the ball. She touches the base prior to being tagged. She's safe no matter what. But Jerry and the rest of Ohio are really encouraging everybody, make that obstruction call. Stick that arm out. That way, if it happens over and over, and then on the 7th time, she's obstructed, same exact situation, but this time she's tagged before she hits first base. Guess what? You still have obstruction. She still is safe at first base, and the world knows because you've already called it 6 or 7 times prior to that.
Yes, absolutely.
When a ball is hit into foul territory, if you can see my cursor here, box it in on the right side. So when the ball is in this area, the first base umpire, especially when they're coming from with nobody on, come over here. And then the plate umpire will come over here so that you will have good eyes on it. If I'm in behind the second baseman with a runner on first, or any other times with runners, multiple runners, or runners on second or runner on third, I'm going to keep my eyes on this. So when the plate umpire comes over here, and if there's a weird thing and she calls her out, and you know that the ball hit the ground, you have an opinion. When the ball is hit into foul territory before reaching first base, the key is the base umpire needs to have an opinion. Talking about, and if there's anything that I want everybody to catch here, is the fact that we could chase a fly ball to the outfield in any situation. And what's most important is we are not running directly at the fielders. So if this is where the ball is going to land, this umpire, let's say that nobody was on base, this umpire is not going to run this way. This runner, since there's runners on, it looks like at least on third, this base umpire is not going to run directly to the ball. The base umpire, she needs to go at an head off at an angle. And right in here, this is where you're going to see these trap balls. Yes. That is where, looking directly down here. So do not run to the fielder. Run, actually, it's kind of sometimes feels counterintuitive, but we're running down the line, or we're running parallel with the ball and the fielders. One thing about chasing that I want to mention, and as we finish up, if there are no runners on base and you are behind the first base person, and there is a potential for a trapped ball, a short fly ball to the outfield, or a potential for a home run, we need to have a good set of eyes on that potential home run. And with no runners on, you will pregame this, but I would suggest that unless it's a no doubter, that somebody goes out on that, even in 2-person. Your plate umpire can cover second base in those situations if it's not a home run and it's a close one. It's a lot easier. It's a lot better to have eyes from 60 feet away saying no catch than eyes from 200 feet away not knowing if it's a catch or not. Right, Linda?
I would agree. Hey, Brian, while you're there, the signal for a trap ball and a no catch as the base umpire, when you see that it's a trap or no catch and you've gone out, the mechanics are safe position. You know, that the fact that there's no catch. So you're signaling to the defense and to the plate umpire, you have nothing. It was, a trap or a drop ball.
Absolutely.
I think that's important.
Absolutely. It's just safe. Verbally communicate with your partner using phrases such as going out, I'm gone, or, whatever you want to do. Move parallel to the fly of the ball. This allows for the better view of the catch, no catch, stop, see the play. Once the call is made, let the ball turn you back to the infield to observe the additional plays. You're not going to call anything, but you're going to observe. Once you're in the outfield, you stay out. But turn and watch. Your plate umpire can sure as heck come to you and ask for help or ask for your opinion on those things. If you go out with nobody on, you are responsible for fair and foul, catch or no catch. Position yourself near the foul line, especially if it's right down the line, and be strong with your signal as you go forward. Lastly, I'm encouraging people that if you need to go out, chase the ball. It doesn't matter how many people are on base. That ball is important. And if you need to go out, go out. Anything else, Linda?
No, not Brian. I think we handled it all and covered it all. I'd like to thank you very much for allowing me to sit in on these two sessions with you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Linda. That was great. And thanks, Jerry.
All righty. Hey.